Drop your egos. Like, admit if you have a fault in something. Nothing's gonna come overnight. It just does not work that way.
I think part of being a good operator is understanding what strategies and blueprints you need in order for the vision to come to life.
Especially as an operator, you have to get people to believe in your vision. You're gonna have to have other leaders, and you need to train them to become good leaders, because if they are shitty leaders managing a team, then everything falls apart.
I'm just prepared of all different worst case scenarios. If we lose 5 of our employees today and they all just walked out the door, would we be able to handle the volume and the tasks and offload that to our current team and delegate that?
If I'm the marketer and you're in operations and we're missing the sales piece, you need to have the ability to delegate, to be able to find somebody that can replace that without them necessarily having to become a partner. What's going on? One of the things we're going to be going over in this video specifically is how to choose a business partner, and just some information about having a business partner in general and what to look out for and how to have a healthy partnership in general. My name is Ashton. I'm the founder of Active Solutions, which is a CRM customization service. Right now we serve just over 200 clients. This is Angela, and she is the co-founder of the company of Active Solutions. We've been running this for about two and a half years now. Partnerships can get super weird, and we've had some previous partnerships in the past too, just with other people, but there are a lot of things to look out for in order to have a healthy partnership that's really going to go the distance in your company. You've probably heard the horror stories of partnership breakups and stuff like that, and we're going to teach you how to avoid that. So one of the first things that we're going to go over is dividing and conquering, making sure that you are not just working on the same things. For example, sometimes you'll get best friends within a company that were both in sales. You both have the skill set of sales, and then you go into business because you're like, we both can sell. That's obviously not the best idea, because you're kind of moving the needle on the same side of the business instead of focusing on different aspects of the business. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest parts about the divide and conquering, well, I mean, just to give like a little bit of context, like in the very beginning, where before I was even part of the business, you had partnered with someone that was very great at sales because you were very great at marketing. So it made sense at the time. But I think the strength in that is obviously that you were able to focus on one area of the business, and he was able to focus on another. And so it's like you kind of did like the front end, he was focusing on the back end, and then it's like you would regroup and be like, okay, like what were the pros and cons of the day? Like, what did you experience? What did we experience? Then you would like collaborate and then move forward. So that's kind of how we're operating now. Since I'm more of the operator in the back end, I'm training the team. I'm making sure that all of the clients that you're bringing in from your marketing being taken care of. And so I think the strength with that, especially right now at the scale of where our business is at, is that I'm able to focus on one thing and be in my zone of genius while you're also in your zone of genius. And then same thing, it's like checks and balances of like, okay, you're bringing in this type of clientele from the marketing. Okay, now we have a designated sales team that's selling people, and then I'm experiencing and training the back end, if that makes sense.
100%. I think the biggest thing you want to look for in this too is finding a partner, if you're going to have a partner at all. But finding it, and it's easier not doing it by yourself. Doing it by yourself is hard.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have a partner, you almost want to find somebody that's going to make up for your lack of skills, right? So if you have experience in sales, maybe you need to find someone who has experience in operations or marketing or something that is going to help you divide and conquer. So I think that's one of the first things to look for. So one of the first boxes you should check. So if you're about to go into a partnership, you need to think, okay, is this going to be redundant? Are we going to be working on the same things in the business, or is this person making up for my lack of skill somewhere else so that I can save time and not have to develop those skills and just kind of use that person as a placeholder to start off with those skills as if you were one person that had that skill already.
For sure. And I think in the very beginning of business, you also haven't developed all of the skills yet. So like, I think you would learn a lot as you go, but in the very beginning, you also don't have the capital to be able to hire the talent that you need to be able to obviously be an operator or a visionary of the business or in the sales. Like, I feel like we can divide it up into 3, right? Like 3 different categories: marketing, sales, and then operations. So it's like if you partner with someone who has the same skill and same knowledge as you do, and then obviously like if you're lacking in the sales, you're going to have to either hire that talent or outsource that to some degree. And in the very beginning stages of business, you don't have that. So I think what's really strengthened us is that we're able to find our zones of geniuses and being able to be like, okay, this is like your area and then this is my area, and then being able to lead the team towards towards that vision.
No, 100%. I think that's a perfect breakdown. The second thing is the dynamic that works the best when you have partnerships. For us specifically, it's visionary and operator, which is a very common dynamic. And in my opinion, I think a lot of successful businesses start with that dynamic. If you're able to have that dynamic, it works very, very well. So for example, one of my skills is marketing. I'm a very good marketer. Bringing in leads, bringing in appointments, bringing in opportunities is not hard for me. I can do that in my sleep. But I also have I know exactly where this company needs to go and what decisions we need to make and what problems we need to fix at all times. It's all I think about, right? And then you're the operator, if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think part of being a good operator is understanding what strategies and blueprints you need, or like the foundation that you need in order for the vision to come to life. So like, for example, I used to be the planner of the friend group. So like if we went on vacation or if we plan like a group trip, I would always be the one that schedules out like, okay, this is the day where I'm going to make reservations for this spot, this spot, this spot, the timestamps for everything, because ultimately everybody wanted to have a good time, but it's like they wanted to see this part of the city and then they wanted to also do the beach, but then they also wanted to do the sightseeing. So it's like, how can I create the frameworks in order for the vision of what the outcome is supposed to be? So I think
that's that's one of the things that I love too, is that if we just in personal life, if we ever go to like the beach or something, it's like we'll get there and I'll be like, damn, I forgot lotion. And she's like, oh no, I brought it. I'm like, oh, I forgot to bring whatever. And it's like, everything is always planned out. Like we have the meals, you have the lotion, you have everything that we need anytime we go on a trip. And it's like, you've planned all of that accordingly so that there's no fuck ups in the process.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's also a part of me that as an operator, I naturally assume worst case scenario. So like, I'm like, well, if we're at the beach and it rains, or if we're at the beach and I don't know, it's really windy that day, like I'm just prepared of all different worst case scenarios. And that's actually helped me so much as an operator, because I look at the foundation of like what we've built and it's like, okay, well, if 5 clients churn this month, how are we going to regain that revenue back by having back end offers or upsells of our current clients? Or if we lose 5 of our employees today and they all just walked out the door, would we be able to handle the volume and the tasks and offload that to our current team and delegate that? So like, I think naturally, maybe as a woman, but I just think naturally it's been really cool because bringing your vision to life, also a little biased, I'm also your fiance, but it's like, I have so much empowerment in doing that. I find so much purpose in being able to be like, okay, this is Ashton's and CEO's vision. What can I structurally pair to make sure that becomes a reality? So like as a visionary, I guess, like how do you process where the big chess moves need to be? Because I think that's really impressive, is that like I'm in the day-to-day, I'm understanding everything that's happening behind closed doors, but it's like you have a bird's eye view of the business. So I'm curious, like how do you know what big moves or power moves to make and when?
Yeah, I think that I obviously know everything that's going on in the business, right? Not like at the client level. Not at the
You're
client.
not in Slack.
No, not at the client level, but I understand, like I know every position that we have on the team.
Yeah.
I know how many clients they're managing. Like I know the higher level stuff. So the cool thing is that I know the foundation or structure of the business, or how many chess pieces we have on the board. I also keep track of all of the numbers like obsessively.
Yeah.
So I know how many people we're signing up. I know what our show rates, our close rates are. I know what our churn rates are. I know our churn rates per pod that we have, for example, right? So it's very easy to see what your bottlenecks are when you have that, you have that view of the business. So the first thing that I look for is I just look at the data. I look at data on a month-to-month basis, but I try to have at least 3 months of data, and then I take the averages of all of that. And if I see a consistent increase in churn, for example, like going from 4% to 6% to 8%, I obviously see a huge problem there. So I automatically know what shifts to make so that we can fix those problems. One big one, for example, that we made recently was in Slack. We moved all of our project management in Slack, and then we hired an additional person that was almost going to be like a floater or a Slack support rapid response specialist for managing the response times of the account managers. So those 2 moves alone decreased a churn problem that we had. It wasn't a huge churn problem.
Yeah, what was the problem we were fixing?
It was churn and operational inefficiencies that we had. And we noticed that we were having to hire a new person too frequently as we continued to sign up people. And
Which
I was
is
like,
not scalable.
Yeah.
At all.
And I was like, well, it is, but it's like, there's probably a way to increase the profit margins first.
For sure.
And be able to increase the number of heads that each account manager can manage efficiently and still provide the same level level of value before we just make the decision to keep hiring. So well, I guess it's not a little thing.
I think it's also because like, you know that we can increase those profit margins, but a lot of people think like the next big move is to just hire and keep hiring and keep hiring whenever you haven't solved the actual root of the problem yet. But I think this also goes just back to number one, the divide and conquering conversation we were having, because it's like you're thinking about all these things. I actually don't think about that as much, right? Like you bring it to my attention, like whenever you and I run projections at the beginning and end of every month, but it's like you also understand at a higher level, like what the major problems are. And then by doing that, you're telling me exactly the problems we're having, but I find the nitty gritties of like the long-term Band-Aid, right? Not just like the short-term Band-Aid, because that is the shared vision is like, how can we really make this scalable and expand and grow? But I also have a capacity to how much like I can think about, but same with you. It's like, if you actually knew our day-to-day and all, you know, the few hundreds of clients that we have and the conversations like I do, I personally know what's going on in every single account, which I don't know is healthy, but for right now it is. It's like, I know everything. I feel like that mental capacity, like if you understood all of that and what our account managers are going through, what our leadership team was going through, there's no way. Like, so I think that in order to operate at peak performance, like dividing and conquering, it strengthens you. So it's really cool to be able to have someone that's a set visionary and someone that's an operator. And we actually like respect those roles.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
One another. Yeah.
I think as a visionary too, extra advice for any business owners that are watching this, as a visionary or an operator, actually being able to delegate. Because like, for example, my first partnership was with somebody else that was managing the sales. And once that part left, I was like, oh, you know, I don't have as much experience in sales. Like I have all this other experience. Like how am I going to solve this problem? So I was kind of doing everything. I took the sales calls. I was doing some of the, you know, the back end work. And it was just kind of like, I was a little bit of everywhere, but I didn't realize that I can just delegate that skill set.
Yeah.
Like I don't need a business partner to be good at sales.
Okay.
I just need to have the ability to find a good salesperson. So sometimes like for us,
Yeah.
if I'm the marketer and you're in operations and we're missing the sales piece, you need to have the ability to delegate, to be able to find somebody that can replace that without them necessarily having to become a partner.
Yeah. I think that's like, but I also feel like another point too is like, we're also talking about this in growing businesses, right? Like younger businesses, because we didn't have the resources to be able to delegate that right away. So we had to sit in the role to be a closer and a setter. And we built those foundations so that when we delegate, because true delegation, in my opinion, like, you know, as I'm leading my team is like, I master the skills first. I understand operationally what needs to be done to be able to succeed in this role. And then once I've acquired those skills, then I can delegate, teach someone else that, and understand like, oh, this is what they're going to experience. These are the walls that they're going to hit. Like, that's what I truly feel like delegation is. But again, like, I feel like with closing, you and I did sit in those roles to be able to be like, okay, these are the types of conversations that need to be had. This is how we need to sell our product, and then brought in talent.
That's a great point, actually, because there are so many business owners, especially new business owners, that come to us who are brand new. They just have an idea, and they want, you know, marketing to bring leads in, and like people are going to be ready to buy, and they want to delegate this, delegate that, and they're looking to hire a team of salespeople at the end of next month. And it's like, you haven't done anything. Like, you are a man with an idea right now.
Yeah.
Like, for
data, zero data.
And there's no such thing as overnight success. Like, you have to become very competent, very good at what you're doing. And even if you're very competent, and like, I'll just give this example.
Yeah.
If you're a phenomenal personal trainer, but you're not competent in business, that doesn't mean you're going to be a great gym owner or online fitness coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can have that box checked and you can be competent in what you know. But once you step into business, it's a completely different ballgame. It's trial and error. You have to experience the bullshit. You have to sit in the roles yourself, do a lot of work that you don't want to do, so that you can get the experience and start actually knowing what to do and how to make decisions. And then when you do start delegating, you have the ability to train those people. Because how stupid are you going to look if you're trying to train salespeople when you've never sat in a sales role yourself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Then there's too many people that do that. And honestly, I have way more respect, especially for physicians that are business owners that have their own practices. I respect them the most whenever we're consulting with them, because they're like, Angela, I went to school to be a doctor, not a business owner. And then we can actually have a very cordial and strategic conversation about, okay, well, that's why I'm here, is like to help you sit in your zone of genius, which is being a physician and helping your patients. Yeah. Everything else, like, you know, we can handle, but
drop your egos 100%.
Yeah.
Like, admit if you have a fault in something.
Right.
Nothing's going to come overnight. There's no magic marketing company or sales company that's going to step into a brand new business and make things happen overnight. It just does not work that way.
That'd be nice.
It would be nice.
Theoretically, it'd be nice.
Last thing, a common long-term vision, which is huge because you want the direction of the company or your goal for the direction of the company. It has to be the same on every end of the spectrum, regardless of how many partnerships that you have. If one person has a short-term goal of wanting to buy a Lambo and the other person has the long-term vision of wanting to provide the best possible service at the most affordable price point for millions of people, for example, two completely different visions, and they're going to butt heads very, very quickly early on in the business, especially as growth and money start to come in.
I think it's resolving conflict is so important with partnerships because I think obviously what's helped us is that we're able to work towards the same vision, and that's obviously strengthened our relationship in general. But I think like if you have a vision of long-term growth and like you're creating, well, with our business, for example, like it's a recurring revenue model, right? So we have people on subscriptions and we stack that. And that's helped tremendously because like we're not running around with like chickens with their heads cut off because we're trying to find that front end cash all the time, right? So it does lessen my anxiety knowing now like what type of long-term vision you've planned all this time. But in the very beginning, I didn't understand that. In the very beginning, I was like, we need to charge 10 racks for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I had this like ego.
She was out of pocket sometimes. Like we'd be like upselling a client on the back end or something. Like we signed them up for an AI chat bot and then she'd be like, he wants marketing. What should I charge him? 20K?
Okay.
And I'm like,
I didn't say that, but no, but it's like, but at the same time, like transparently, I didn't know that much about business yet, to be fair. So I was like, well, wouldn't it make sense to drive more revenue on the front end so that we could pay our bills and take a higher profit margin? And then it's not that we were like butting heads, but like the way that we were able to find a solution, the way to resolve the conflict was like, hey, Angela, this is the long-term vision and the math needs to math. And so when you broke down what a recurring revenue model would look like, it's like comparing and contrasting. I very much understood that. So now I'm like, oh, okay, we just have to keep our clients for a long time because the LTV, the long-term value of like, you know, one client is going to be insane numbers compared to, oh, let's charge them an arm and a leg up front and then they can't afford to stay because they've ran out of money. So I think that was really cool. Like your ability to also be able to communicate that to me. But I think a lot of business owners, like ego kind of contradicts that, you know, like they can't really, well, not can't, but there's a lot of conflict that I've seen where they're thinking two completely opposite ways.
Most people focus on the right now.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's not the fault of the business owner. I think like around 2017, 2018, the high ticket wave came in where everybody was charging like $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for coaching programs or whatever. So it's like everybody wants the revenue right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just kind of have to choose your hard, right? So like, for example, if you want to have a $10,000 price point and you need, one thing you have to do regardless is the value has on the back end has to match or you're a scammer. Yeah. Well, no, you're a scammer.
Yeah.
Like if you're not doing what you say you're going to deliver on and someone pays $10,000 for it, you know what I mean? Like it's not right. But if you have an insane amount of value for what you do, and I know a lot of people that do this well, and it's a $10,000 price point, then that makes sense. You also have to be very good at sales and very good at training sales teams. And that's something you're going to have to scale. And not everybody has that skill. You have to develop that. So that's like the hard that you choose. The other thing is for ours, for example, we have a low ticket recurring revenue model. We don't get $5,000 up front, but we get, you know, $7,000 to $10,000 over the course of their entire partnership with us. However, and it's much easier to sell on the front end. So scaling sales teams and all of that, it's not as hard, right? The problem is how do you keep it profitable when people are paying so little over a period of time and you're managing so many of them? That is the operations. That's where that comes in because someone who's not prepared to manage those operations, like everything will fall apart on the back end, right? So that's the hard that we chose is how do we develop systems and how do we develop SOPs in training and leadership that gets people to want to believe in your vision and work their asses off for you, but also in an efficient manner so they can manage people at a large scale while still delivering so that your profit per head stays high. That wasn't an overnight thing.
No,
that took a lot. So it's like you have to choose your hard, but the one thing that needs to be consistent, regardless of the business model that you have, is the value of what you deliver has to be matched to the price point at the very minimum. Because if that's not the case, then you're scamming people.
And I think, you know, one of the last things I think I wanted to just bring up was how grateful, honestly, we are for our leadership team because it's a shared vision with them too. So I pour into leadership because I've worked for horrible leaders in the past. I've also had horrible volleyball coaches in the past as well. So I think I learned a lot from what not to do. And in order for us to make our like vision a reality, your team has to be on board. And in the very beginning stages of your business, like you are going to have a lot of people that you hire that you have to also be bought into your vision, or else this wouldn't work. You know what I mean? So if they're just coming in and out for a paycheck for a growing business and a very young business, that's going to be very hard because they're not going to be committed to the process, and it's going to be way harder than your typical 9-to-5 job where it's like already set and it's like, okay, this is the set amount of hours and then you can log off. You know, like it wasn't like that in the very beginning. So the more that you can pour into your team, the more loyalty that they'll have to you, and the more respect that they'll have also for you and our clients too.
Yeah.
So
agreed. No, that's a great point. And it's a lot harder than it seems. Training leaders to be leaders is one of the bottlenecks. It's one of the reasons why you've probably heard this before. A lot of people will say that 1 to 3 million is the hardest. And one of the largest bottlenecks that every company runs into when they hit that point is having to train leaders to become leaders.
Yeah.
Because usually the business reaches a point where you can't do everything on your own anymore, especially as an operator. You have to get people to believe in your vision. You're going to have other leaders, and you need to train them to become good leaders, because if they are shitty leaders managing a team, then everything falls apart.
Right.
And you can't risk that.
But then again, is leading by example. We chose to sit in those roles so that we can fully understand what we need to do and what problems may occur to be able to delegate that. And it's like when you just lead by example, like your team will have so much respect for you. And that's where like that loyalty comes in, is like, oh, Angela's done this. Oh, Angela's in the Slack channels, like answering clients and putting out fires, not for us, but like, oh, wow, like she's really taking ownership of that. And I think that goes to show like, you know, why our leadership is where it is because we chose to sit in those roles and we chose to actually lead by example. And that hurts a lot of businesses.
1000%. Appreciate you watching this video. And one of the reasons why we like to make these videos is just so everybody that watches it has the ability to make more money afterwards. If you look in the description below, you'll see a link to our school channel. If you are a business owner and you don't want to do things by yourself, there's also going to be a link there so you can schedule and book a call with our team. We can see if it's a good fit to potentially service you in some way, shape, or form and help you scale. Appreciate you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.